But so we got Snyder Cut, 4 hours long. You guys were talking about a watch along.
Joe was talking about a watch along. How would we do
I
this?
I don't know a 4 hour watch along.
No, I never even saw the original Justice League, so it's like I probably don't need to now.
You don't need to now, from what I hear. And honestly, the original one wasn't good, and I'm the only one that saw it, so I don't know.
I now, do you think this will change the story at all, or like how?
They say it does.
Okay,
I just don't know which story they go with,
yeah,
or if this Flash movie's going to reboot everything.
yeah. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
So yeah, I guess so. But there, someone brought up a fair point. I think it was Kevin Smith. Joss Whedon, they cut his movie down too. So it's like if you have a 4 hour movie cut into a 2 hour movie, you're gonna miss out a lot.
Yeah.
So it's almost better that Snyder got this version out there.
Well, it's like I don't know. I think they need to like they can't be afraid to make movies into two parts as well. I don't think that's a bad thing. Like I guess for like Star Wars it doesn't make sense because the episodes are parts in a way. But like episode 9 was originally supposed to be like a 3 to 4 hour movie, but it got cut down, which I guess like because it was episode 9 you probably could have made the exception, but I wonder like again there's so much like that you miss out on if you're taking out 2 hours of the movie. And I just wonder if in the case of that if like you learn more about Palpatine like coming back and stuff, and there's a little bit more like understanding how they're putting the puzzle pieces together of finding that stupid wayfinder or whatever.
For me, it's just like I'm not afraid of a 4 hour movie.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
I've seen 4 hour movies in theaters before. It's just for them to make money, they have to turn over so many theaters.
Yeah.
And if it's pretty much taking up half your theater
Yeah.
if you're doing 4 hours instead of two.
Yeah.
You're losing half your
That's what I'm
showings.
saying. Like, do part one and part two. Also, like, if you do part one and part two, a majority of people that see part one are definitely going to see part two. So
Right.
it's like you are just almost doubling the money at that point.
I think you can get away with it. I don't think you want to do it all the time.
And the way I think it should work is like maybe you do like part one, have it go through its movie theater slate, and then like maybe 6 months later release part two. Don't like do like an entire year or two to wait.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Well, that's why I think it's funny that technically Endgame was part two.
Yeah, it was supposed to. It was called. It was originally Infinity War Part One and Part Two.
Right. And then they turned part two into Endgame,
Yeah.
which is fine, but it's two different
Oh
movies.
yeah.
They connect, but it's just like you can understand what's going
Yeah.
on.
No, I feel like there was a very there wasn't like a almost like a direct continuation in a way. Like it did.
Because they had that gap.
Yeah.
They had a time gap. So
Yeah.
as soon as you have a time gap, that's a second different movie.
Yeah.
I don't know why they pitched it as two.
Yeah. I guess because it
But
does all correlate to the Infinity Gauntlet going off and stuff, and Thanos being the villain, but it wasn't like necessary. Which obviously they.
I'm I'm trying to think other two-part movies I've watched. I know Harry Potter had one.
Yeah. That one like made sense, but they waited like a full year to release the second part or something. Which
Hmm.
again,
I never saw the second part. I saw the first part. I was like, oh,
well, I
okay.
just think at that point it's like you wait too long, and part one of that movie is so slow.
It's not short.
Yeah, it's slow. It all the action happens in the second part of that movie. Like part one's like pretty much a waste of time in my opinion.
But again, after I think that was 7 and 8 in the franchise. So it's like after that many movies, like you kind of earn the audience
Yeah. Also,
trust at
most
that point.
people knew what to expect. They already read the book.
Right. The Hunger Games I never saw. I think they had a two-part movie. Or was
Part
it Twilight?
Mockingjay Part Two. No, that's not. That's a different book. I don't know. Yeah, but
But anyway, so
the third one was Part
it
One
was
and Two.
trendy for a while. I'm trying to nothing recently.
No, even then, those two were like split apart like quite some time. Because didn't that Mockingjay come out in like 2016? I thought.
I mean, it's all marketing.
Was it?
So it's just like they probably had to wait for the entire world to get it before they released part two.
Yeah. Um, I would prefer if they did more part one and part two. So part one came out in 2014. Part two came out in 2015 for Mockingjay, which is the third film.
Easy enough, but
And then
we'll see what happens.
part
I think now that everything's home streaming
yeah,
and it looks like it's going to be home streaming for a while, do you think that's going to make it more movies in two parts or less movies?
I would hope
Or are they just going to make longer movies?
I would hope more, and I would hope even that maybe the distance between part one and part two is shorter because you don't have to wait for the entire movie being out in theaters. So you could do part one like on a Friday night, and then maybe like the next Friday night you get part two. Like you don't have to wait the entire as like maybe that's too soon. I think for like being in movie theaters, they would have to wait at least 6 weeks because I think most movies stay in the theater for 6 weeks or have a contract for 6 weeks, especially the big
So
ones.
what they're doing with these home videos like HBO
Mm-hmm.
Max, you have 3 weeks to watch it before it goes away.
So maybe you do 3 weeks, and then after the 3 weeks, the next one comes out, next part.
I mean, it's doable. I think we're going to see some really interesting things as far as strategies. So, say you have a series and you release one movie every 6 months.
Yeah,
You're essentially taking the made for TV model. Like Tom Selleck does TV movies.
yeah.
And there's one character, I can't think of it, Jesse something or other. I haven't watched it. My parents do. Jesse Stone, I think it's called. He's got like 25 TV movies.
Oh, okay.
So he's releasing them twice a year.
TV movies are like
So you just change
an
the
hour
budget.
to an hour and a half, right?
Yeah. And then the commercials get you to two.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you think about it, a lot of movies are just an hour and a half now. So
Yeah. Again, like I guess whatever gets the story they're trying to tell out, but like I don't need people shortening a movie or whatnot just to cut it into the certain time for like theaters and stuff and keep people's attention. If they need to make part two, part three, whatever.
So my thing is, there is something to be said about cutting time out of movies, because there's a lot of times I go into a 2.5 hour movie and I go, they could have cut 45 minutes out.
Yeah, I think you have to be smart about it.
So it just depends who gets that final cut.
I think there's just as much that you need to cut out as you need to keep in. So it's like, but like episode 3 for Star Wars, that first sequence where they go to save Palpatine from Count Dooku, the original script had that set for like 4 hours. That opening scene.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you definitely don't need 4 hours of that entire space battle. But so like there's a lot of stuff that does get cut out of movies that I don't even never makes it to filming, but I think there's definitely a lot of stuff that once filmed you have to pick and choose your battles, obviously, but
I think we're going to see longer movie times if it's all at home stuff. I think they're also giving creative people creative control.
yeah, I don't like it like
So-
when the big boss people try to, take too much control
Get
over
involved.
like length and what's going on with the film.
And then so